The chocolate frosting gleams under the dining room chandelier, perfect swirls catching the light like some magazine photograph. 28 candles flicker across the surface, casting dancing shadows on the mahogany table that's been in our family for 3 generations. I should feel grateful. I should feel loved. Instead, my stomach churns with the same unease that's followed me through the front door of this house for the past 6 months. I'd love to know which corner of the globe you're watching from, and if this story speaks to you, make sure to subscribe. Tomorrow's video is one you absolutely can't miss. "Make a wish, sweetheart," Mom says, her voice honey-sweet in that particular way that always precedes disappointment. She stands behind my chair, manicured fingers resting on my shoulders with just enough pressure to feel possessive rather than comforting. The cake sits before me like an offering, 3 layers of what I know is my childhood favorite, German chocolate with coconut pecan frosting. Mom must have spent hours on it, the same way she used to when I was small and believed that elaborate gestures meant unconditional love. Now, at 28, I recognize performance when I see it. 28 years, Dad announces from his position at the head of the table, raising his wine glass. Our little girl, all grown up and successful. His smile doesn't reach his eyes, the same calculating expression he wears during his real estate negotiations. Though not too grown up to celebrate with her family. My younger brother Ethan shifts in his chair across from me, avoiding eye contact. He's been doing that since I arrived an hour ago, mumbling greetings and disappearing into his phone. At 25, he still lives in the basement apartment Mom and Dad converted for him after his 3rd job layoff. His graphic design degree hangs unused, while he spends most days gaming and living off their generosity. "The cake looks incredible, Mrs. Patterson," says my boyfriend Jake, reaching for my hand under the table. His fingers intertwine with mine, warm and steady. "You really outdid yourself." Jake doesn't know about the text messages, doesn't know about the way my family's financial emergencies have coincidentally aligned with my recent promotion to senior quality assurance manager at the pharmaceutical lab. He doesn't understand why I've been finding excuses to limit our visits here, why family dinners leave me exhausted rather than fulfilled. "It's nothing," Mom waves dismissively, but her cheeks flush with pleasure. "Anything for my daughter's special day. Though I have to say, we've missed having you around, Sophia. You've been so distant lately." The word hangs in the air like an accusation. Distant. As if setting boundaries is a character flaw. As if saying no to their constant requests for loans has somehow made me the villain in our family story. "Work's been intense," I deflect, focusing on the candle flames rather than the expectant faces surrounding me. The FDA inspection is next month, and I'm heading the compliance review for our entire testing division. "Always working," Dad sighs dramatically. "Remember when you used to have time for family? Before you got all those fancy promotions and started thinking you were better than us?" The comment stings because it's designed to. Dad has perfected the art of wrapped insults, observations that sound like concern, but cut deep enough to leave marks. It's the same tone he used when I bought my condo last year, when I declined to co-sign Ethan's car loan, when I stopped automatically transferring money every time someone claimed an emergency. "I don't think I'm better than anyone," I say quietly, my voice steadier than I feel. "I just have responsibilities now." "Responsibilities," Ethan finally speaks up, his tone bitter. "Must be nice to have a job that actually pays enough for responsibilities." There it is. The underlying resentment that's poisoned every family gathering since I started earning more than minimum wage. My success has become a constant reminder of their struggles, my financial stability, and implicit judgment of their choices. Jake squeezes my hand, sensing the tension. He's witnessed enough of these family dynamics to recognize the patterns, though he's too polite to comment. His own family celebrates achievements without the undercurrent of jealousy that permeates every interaction here. Well, Mom claps her hands together, forcing brightness back into her voice. Tonight is about celebration, not work stress. Sophia, blow out your candles before the wax drips all over my beautiful cake. I lean forward, making a silent wish for this evening to end without incident. The candles extinguish in one breath, smoke curling upward as everyone applauds. The sound feels hollow in the formal dining room, echoing off walls lined with family photos that tell the story of a happiness I'm no longer sure ever existed. Perfect, Mom beams, immediately reaching for the cake server. Who wants the first piece? The birthday girl, of course, Dad insists, though something in his tone suggests obligation rather than celebration. Mom cuts a generous corner piece, the one with the most frosting, and slides it across the table to me. The plate is one of her good china set, the pattern she inherited from Grandma Patterson and only brings out for special occasions.
This looks amazing, I say, picking up my fork. The chocolate looks rich and moist, exactly the way I remember from childhood birthdays when everything felt simpler, when I believed that my family's love came without conditions or hidden costs. The first bite should taste like nostalgia, like security, like home. Instead, it tastes like chocolate and something else, something slightly bitter that I can't quite identify. I pause, fork halfway to my mouth for the second bite. Everything okay? Mom asks, her eyes bright with anticipation. It's delicious, I lie, taking another small bite. The bitter aftertaste is stronger now, medicinal almost. Perhaps she used a different brand of chocolate, or maybe I'm imagining things. Stress has been affecting my appetite lately, making everything taste slightly off. Jake cuts into his own slice, taking a large bite. This is incredible, Mrs. Patterson. The frosting is perfect, not too sweet. Family recipe, she says proudly, serving Dad and Ethan their portions. Sophia's grandmother taught me how to make it when she was just a baby. Some traditions are worth preserving. I watch as everyone else enjoys their cake, their faces animated with genuine pleasure. Jake particularly seems to be savoring every bite, complimenting the texture and flavor between forkfuls. Even Ethan has emerged from his sullen mood long enough to ask for a second piece. But my slice sits mostly untouched on the china plate. Each bite I force down tastes increasingly wrong, the sweetness battling against that underlying bitterness that seems to intensify with each swallow. My stomach begins to feel unsettled, though I attribute it to the tension that always accompanies family gatherings these days. You're not eating much, Dad observes, his eyes fixed on my plate. Don't you like your mother's cake anymore? I'm just taking my time, I say, managing another small bite, savoring it. Mom refills coffee cups, moving around the table with practiced grace. She's changed clothes twice since I arrived, settling on the navy dress that's always been her favorite, the one that makes her look younger and more elegant. Everything about tonight feels choreographed, from the timing of dinner to the placement of the flowers to the way conversations flow in predetermined directions. I made your favorite dinner, too, she continues, settling back into her chair. Herb-crusted salmon with those little roasted potatoes you used to beg for as a child. Remember how you'd sneak extra portions when you thought I wasn't looking? The memory should be sweet, but it feels manipulative now. Everything tonight feels like emotional archaeology, digging up moments from my childhood and presenting them as evidence of love that's somehow being repaid with distance and ingratitude. I remember, I say softly, pushing another forkful of cake around my plate. You've always been an incredible cook. Some things don't change, she says, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. Family recipes, family traditions, family love, those are constants you can count on, no matter how successful you become or how far away your career takes you. The message is clear. Success has separated me from my family, and I should feel guilty about it. My achievements are presented as betrayals, my financial independence as abandonment. It's a familiar script, one that's been playing on repeat since my first promotion 3 years ago. Jake finishes his slice and leans back in his chair, patting his stomach contentedly. I might need that recipe, Mrs. Patterson. Sophia's been trying to recreate this cake for months. Have you? Mom turns to me with surprise. You never said anything. I wanted to surprise you, I improvise, though the truth is I've been trying to recreate the version from my childhood before family dinners became exercises in emotional manipulation. The words hang between us, heavier than I intended. Mom's expression flickers. Hurt? Anger? Something that looks almost like fear. Dad sets down his coffee cup with more force than necessary, the china ringing against the saucer. Your own traditions, he repeats slowly, as if the ones we've built together for 28 years aren't good enough anymore. That's not what I meant. Isn't it? His voice carries that edge I remember from childhood arguments, the tone that could make me feel small and wrong even when I knew I was right. The room falls silent except for the gentle ticking of the grandfather clock in the hallway. Ethan stares at his empty plate, unwilling to be drawn into the familiar battlefield of family politics. Jake's hand finds mine again, a silent anchor in the rising storm. My stomach cramps suddenly, sharp enough to make me wince. The bitter aftertaste from the cake seems to have settled permanently in my mouth, and I reach for my water glass, hoping to wash it away. The cramping intensifies, and I shift uncomfortably in my chair.
A lot of love and effort went into bringing this story to life. If you're enjoying it, we'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe to our channel. Now, back to where we left off. Sophia? Jake notices immediately. You okay? Just a little stomach upset, I say, though the pain is becoming harder to ignore. I think I might be coming down with something. Mom's expression sharpens with concern that feels almost predatory. Oh no, not on your birthday. You look a little pale, sweetheart. Maybe you should lie down for a bit. The suggestion feels less like care and more like direction, as if she's guiding me towards some predetermined outcome. I glance around the table, noting how everyone is watching me with varying degrees of intensity. Dad's fingers drum against the mahogany surface, a nervous habit I've known since childhood. Ethan finally looks up from his plate, his eyes carrying something that might be guilt. I'm fine, I insist, though another wave of cramping suggests otherwise. Just tired, probably. It's been a long week. Of course it has, Dad says, his tone gentler now. You work too hard, Sophia. Always have. Maybe this is your body telling you to slow down, spend more time with the people who matter. The pain in my abdomen intensifies, accompanied now by a churning sensation that makes me regret eating anything at all. I push my chair back slightly, creating space between myself and the table, between myself and the expectant faces watching my every reaction. Something is wrong. Beyond the family tension, beyond the emotional manipulation, something is physically wrong. The cake sits on my plate, most of it uneaten, the frosting beginning to separate slightly in the warm dining room. The taste lingers in my mouth like a warning I'm only beginning to understand. The cramping escalates to a sharp, twisting pain that doubles me over in my chair. I grip the edge of the table, knuckles white against the dark wood, trying to breathe through what feels like my intestines tying themselves in knots. Sophia! Jake's chair scrapes against the hardwood as he moves closer. What's wrong? I don't know, I gasp, pressing my hand to my abdomen. The pain comes in waves now, each one stronger than the last. Something's not right. Mom rises from her seat with theatrical concern, her hand fluttering to her chest. Oh my goodness, maybe it's food poisoning. Did you eat anything unusual today? The question strikes me as odd. She knows exactly what I've eaten tonight. The salmon dinner she prepared, the cake she baked. But there's something in her tone, a fishing quality that makes my professional instincts prickle. In pharmaceutical quality assurance, we're trained to notice when questions feel like someone already knows the answer. Just what we had here, I manage between cramps, and a salad at lunch. Dad leans forward, his real estate agent's concerned expression sliding into place. A salad? From where? You know those trendy places downtown never wash their lettuce properly. Another wave of pain hits, this one accompanied by an urgent pressure in my lower abdomen that sends alarm bells ringing through my system.
I know this sensation. I've experienced it twice before in my life. Once after a contaminated water incident during a college camping trip, and once when I had food poisoning from a sketchy gas station sandwich. But this is different, more immediate, more intense. I need to use the bathroom, I announced, pushing back from the table with more urgency than dignity. Of course, sweetheart. Let me help you upstairs. I can manage, though standing requires considerable effort. The room tilts slightly, and I have to grip the back of my chair for balance. Jake stands too, worry creasing his features. Maybe we should go home, get you to a doctor. Nonsense, Dad interjects with surprising force. She just needs to rest. Sometimes the body rebels when we've been pushing too hard. Sophia's been under tremendous stress at work. The way he says it makes stress sound like a moral failing. I take a tentative step toward the hallway, my legs feeling unsteady beneath me. Each movement sends fresh waves of cramping through my core. Really, I think we should leave, Jake persists, reaching for my elbow to steady me. This doesn't look like normal food poisoning. Jake's right, I agree, though speaking requires focus now. I should probably see someone tonight. On your birthday? Mom's voice carries a note of hurt that feels calculated. You can't even spend one evening with your family without running off to urgent care? Besides, what would they tell you? That you had dinner at home and got sick? They'll just tell you to stay hydrated.
Ethan finally speaks up from his position across the table. Maybe we should call someone. She looks really pale. Thank you, I breathe, grateful that at least one family member seems genuinely concerned. But Mom waves dismissively. She's probably just tired. You know how she gets when she works those long hours. Her body's telling her to slow down. Another cramp hits, this one so intense that I have to bite my lip to keep from crying out. The urgent pressure in my bowels is becoming impossible to ignore. I need to get to the bathroom, and I need to get there now. Excuse me, I mutter, abandoning any pretense of politeness as I hurry toward the hallway. Behind me, I hear Jake's voice, strained with worry. Mrs. Patterson, this really doesn't look normal. Should I call 911? Oh, heavens, no, Mom responds quickly. You'll just embarrass her. Sophia hates making a fuss. She gets this way sometimes when she's overwhelmed. I pause at the base of the stairs, one hand gripping the banister as another wave of pain crashes through me. Gets this way sometimes? I've never had episodes like this in my adult life. Mom is creating a medical history that doesn't exist, painting me as someone prone to stress-related illness. But before I can process this fully, my phone buzzes in my pocket. Through the haze of pain, I manage to extract it and glance at the screen. Unknown number. The message preview makes my blood run cold, despite the fever-like heat spreading through my body. Don't eat any more of that cake. Get to a hospital now. This isn't food poisoning. My hand trembles as I unlock the phone to read the full message. Sophia, this is Dr. Lisa Chen from the lab. I saw something disturbing today and couldn't reach you by phone. Your brother Ethan came by our facility this morning asking about laxative compounds that wouldn't show up in basic toxicology. He said it was for a prank, but mentioned your name specifically. I should have called sooner. Get medical attention immediately and save a sample of whatever you've eaten. The phone slips from my numb fingers, clattering on the hardwood floor. Dr. Chen is our lab's senior toxicologist, someone I trust implicitly. She wouldn't send a message like this unless she was certain. Laxative compounds. My birthday cake. My own brother. The pieces click together with horrifying clarity. The bitter aftertaste, the too perfect presentation, the way everyone watched me eat, the coordinated responses to my illness. Sophia? Jake's voice comes from the dining room. Are you okay out there? I bend to retrieve my phone, the movement sending fresh spasms through my abdomen. When I straighten, Mom is standing in the doorway, her expression unreadable in the dim hallway light. Having trouble? She asks, moving closer. I need to go, I say, backing toward the front door. Jake, we need to leave. Now.
What's the rush? Mom's voice carries a new edge. You haven't even finished your cake. I worked so hard on it. Jake appears beside her, his concern deepening as he takes in my appearance. Sophia, you look terrible. What happened? I hold up my phone, the message still displayed. Someone poisoned the cake. The silence that follows is deafening. Mom's face cycles through emotions, surprise, hurt, indignation, before settling on something that looks almost like disappointment. Poisoned? She laughs, but the sound is hollow. Sweetheart, you're clearly delirious. Food poisoning can cause paranoia. Maybe you should lie down. Show me, Jake says quietly, reading the tension in the air. I hand him the phone, watching his expression change as he reads Dr. Chen's message. His jaw tightens, and when he looks up at Mom, all pretense of politeness has vanished. Laxatives? He says, his voice dangerously quiet. You put laxatives in her birthday cake? That's ridiculous, Mom sputters, but Dad has appeared in the doorway now, his face grave. What's going on? Dad demands, though something in his posture suggests he already knows. Ethan emerges last, hovering behind the others like he's trying to disappear into the wallpaper. His guilt is written across every feature. The way he won't meet my eyes, the way his hands shake slightly, the way he keeps glancing toward the back door as if calculating escape routes. Ethan, I say, my voice steady despite the pain. What did you ask for at my lab? I don't know what you're talking about, he mumbles, but the lie falls flat. Jake steps between me and my family, his protective instincts finally overriding politeness. We're leaving, now, and we're going straight to the hospital. You're overreacting, Dad says, but his voice lacks conviction. Sophia's always been dramatic about medical issues.
Another lie. Another invented character trait to explain away what's happening. The cramping intensifies, accompanied now by a new urgency that makes standing difficult. Whatever compound Ethan obtained from the lab, it's working exactly as intended. My body is rebelling against me in the most humiliating way possible. Get my purse, I tell Jake, leaning against the wall for support. It's in the dining room. He nods and pushes past my parents, leaving me alone in the hallway with the three people who orchestrated this, the three people who watched me suffer and tried to convince me I was imagining it. Why? I whisper, though I'm not sure I want the answer. Mom's mask finally slips completely. You've forgotten where you came from, Sophia. You've forgotten that family comes first. Sometimes people need reminders about what's really important. What's really important? The pain makes it hard to think clearly, but outrage gives me strength. Humiliating your own daughter is important? Teaching you humility, Dad corrects. Showing you that you're not as invincible as you think, that you still need your family. Jake returns with my purse, his face dark with anger. Are you seriously admitting to poisoning her? It's not poison, Ethan finally speaks up, his voice defensive. It's just laxatives. It won't hurt her permanently. It's like a prank. A prank? Jake's voice rises. She could dehydrate. She could have complications. This isn't a prank. This is assault. The word hangs in the air like a physical presence. Assault. Criminal charges, legal consequences. My family's faces pale as the reality of their actions settles over them. You wouldn't, Mom says, but uncertainty flickers in her eyes. Report your own family over a harmless joke? Harmless? I double over as another cramp hits. I'm going to be sick for hours, maybe days. I'll have to miss work, cancel meetings, explain to my team why I can't function, all because you wanted to teach me humility?
We wanted to spend time with you, Dad says, his tone shifting toward desperation. You never visit anymore. You're always too busy, too important. We thought if you were sick, you'd have to stay. You'd have to let us take care of you. The twisted logic is breathtaking. They poisoned me to keep me close. They made me sick so they could play caretaker. They turned my birthday celebration into a medical emergency because they missed having control over my life. That's insane, Jake says, voicing what I'm thinking. That's absolutely insane. Another urgent spasm hits, and I know I'm out of time. Whatever they used is working faster now, and I need medical attention immediately. We're leaving, I announce, stumbling toward the front door, and I'm saving that cake as evidence. Evidence? Mom's voice cracks. Sophia, please, don't be so dramatic. It was just what? I turn back to face them, using the doorframe for support. Just poisoning, just assault, just 3 people I trusted conspiring to make me sick on my birthday? The silence that follows contains the weight of 28 years of manipulation, guilt trips, and emotional blackmail. But this time, they've crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. They've moved from psychological manipulation to physical harm. And as I stumble toward Jake's car, my phone already dialing the emergency line, I realize that sometimes the people who claim to love you most are the ones you need protection from. The emergency room fluorescent lights feel harsh against my skin as I grip the metal rails of the hospital bed. It's been 3 hours since Jake rushed me here. 3 hours of IV fluids and medical questioning revealed far more than just the contents of my birthday cake. Dr. Martinez, the attending physician, returns with a tablet and an expression that's shifted from concern to professional alarm. Behind her walks Detective Sarah Walsh from the Portland Police Bureau, her badge catching the overhead light. Miss Patterson, Dr. Martinez begins, settling into the chair beside my bed. The preliminary blood work confirms significant levels of bisacodyl and docusate sodium in your system, both powerful laxative compounds. But more concerning is the concentration. This wasn't a prank dose. My stomach, finally settling after hours of cramping, clenches again for different reasons. What do you mean? Detective Walsh steps forward, pulling out a small recorder. Ma'am, with your permission, I'd like to record this conversation. The amount of laxatives in your system could have caused severe dehydration, electrolyte imbalance, and potentially cardiac complications. We're treating this as intentional poisoning.
Jake squeezes my hand from his position in the visitor's chair. His face carries the exhaustion of someone who's spent hours advocating for me while I was too sick to speak coherently. He's already given his statement about the evening's events. The cake sample you brought tested positive for the same compounds, Dr. Martinez continues. But here's what's particularly troubling. The distribution pattern suggests this wasn't amateur. Someone with knowledge of pharmaceutical dosing calculated this carefully. My professional training kicks in despite my weakened state. What kind of knowledge? The type taught in advanced chemistry or pharmaceutical programs, Detective Walsh says, or acquired through working in medical facilities. Your brother, Ethan Patterson, do you know if he has any medical background? None, I say immediately. He dropped out of graphic design school. He's been unemployed for 8 months. Dr. Martinez exchanges a glance with the detective. Miss Patterson, we've been in contact with Dr. Chen from your laboratory. She's provided some additional information about your brother's visit yesterday that raises serious concerns. My heart rate spikes, and the monitor beside my bed begins beeping faster. What kind of concerns? Detective Walsh consults her notes. According to Dr. Chen, your brother didn't just ask about laxatives. He specifically inquired about compounds that would be untraceable in standard emergency room testing. He also asked about dosage calculations for someone of your approximate weight and health status. The room feels like it's spinning, though I know that's probably residual effects from the poisoning. He asked about my weight? He told Dr. Chen he was planning a harmless prank on his sister who was about 5'6", around 135 pounds, with no known medical conditions. Detective Walsh reads from her notepad.
He was very specific about wanting something that would cause maximum discomfort without permanent damage. Jake's grip on my hand tightens. Maximum discomfort. Jesus Christ. Dr. Martinez leans forward. Miss Patterson, based on the compounds and concentrations we found, you would have been incapacitated for at least 12 to 18 hours. Severe intestinal cramping, continuous diarrhea, potential vomiting, dehydration. Someone wanted you completely helpless. But why? The question comes out as barely a whisper. Detective Walsh's expression grows more serious. That's what we need to find out. Dr. Chen mentioned your brother asked several follow-up questions that suggest this goes beyond a simple prank. He wanted to know how long the effects would last, whether you'd be able to drive or think clearly, and whether the compounds would show up if someone had to call an ambulance. The indications hit me like physical blows. They didn't just want to make me sick. They wanted me completely dependent on them, unable to leave, unable to function, unable to resist whatever they had planned next. There's more, Detective Walsh continues. We've obtained a warrant for your brother's internet search history. Over the past 2 weeks, he's researched topics including how to care for someone with food poisoning, legal guardianship for incapacitated adults, and power of attorney during medical emergencies. My blood turns to ice. Power of attorney? Dr. Martinez nods grimly. In cases of severe illness, family members can sometimes gain temporary legal authority over an incapacitated person's decisions, medical choices, financial transactions, living arrangements. They wanted to control me, I breathe, the full scope of their plan becoming clear. Not just for one night, they wanted me sick enough that they could take over my life. Jake stands abruptly, pacing to the window. This is insane. Who does this to their own family? Detective Walsh has seen enough family crimes to not look surprised. Miss Patterson, we need to discuss your financial situation. Do your parents or brother have access to any of your accounts? No, I say firmly. I've been careful about that since they started asking for loans constantly. How much have they asked for, and how often? I think back over the past year, calculating amounts that seemed reasonable in isolation, but add up to something staggering in retrospect. Maybe $15,000 total? Always emergencies. Dad's real estate business is struggling, Mom's dental work, Ethan's car repairs, utility bills. And did you verify those emergencies? The question stops me cold. I know. I trusted them. They're my family. Detective Walsh makes notes. We're going to need documentation of those requests. Text messages, emails, bank records. Because if this plan had worked, if you'd been incapacitated for weeks, they could have had access to everything.
A knock on the door interrupts us. A nurse enters, followed by Dr. Chen herself. My colleague looks haggard, like she's been up all night worrying. Sophia, Dr. Chen approaches my bed. I'm so sorry. I should have called you immediately when Ethan left our facility. Something felt wrong about his questions, but I convinced myself it was harmless. What exactly did he say? Detective Walsh asks. Dr. Chen pulls out her own notes. He said his sister, he used your name specifically, had been working too hard and needed to be forced to slow down. He claimed you'd developed some kind of workaholism that was destroying your health and family relationships. That's not true, I protest. I know, Dr. Chen says gently, which is why his story didn't sit right. He said the family had tried interventions, therapy suggestions, even staging emergencies to get your attention, but nothing worked. He wanted something that would make you completely dependent on family care for at least a week. Jake stops pacing. A week? They planned to keep her sick for a week? According to your brother's questions, yes. He wanted to know about compounds that could be administered repeatedly without building tolerance. He asked about mixing different laxatives to extend the effects. Dr. Martinez shakes her head. At the concentrations we found in your system, repeated dosing could have caused serious complications, kidney damage, heart arrhythmias, severe malnutrition. The room falls silent as we all process the implications. This wasn't a prank that went too far. It was a calculated assault designed to strip away my independence and put me under their control indefinitely. Detective Walsh closes her notepad. Miss Patterson, we need to discuss next steps.
We have enough evidence to arrest your family members on charges of aggravated assault, conspiracy, and potentially attempted unlawful imprisonment. But I need to know, are you prepared for what that means? I stare at the ceiling, trying to process 28 years of family relationships through this new lens. How many times had they manufactured crises to control my behavior? How many emergencies were actually manipulation tactics? How long had they been planning something like this? They told me tonight that they missed taking care of me, that I'd become too independent, too successful. Dad said I needed to remember that I still needed my family. Classic abuser language, Dr. Martinez observes, disguising control as care. Jake returns to his chair, his face grim. Sophia, think about the timing. Your promotion to senior QA manager was 3 months ago, right? When did the financial requests start escalating? The timeline clicks into place with horrible clarity. Right after the promotion, the requests got bigger, more frequent. And when I started saying no, they got more creative, Detective Walsh finishes. Miss Patterson, people don't usually jump straight to poisoning. There's usually an escalation pattern. Can you think of other incidents that seemed strange at the time? I close my eyes, sifting through recent memories with new understanding. Last month, Mom invited me to lunch. I got violently ill afterward, spent 2 days in bed. She came over to take care of me, insisted on handling my mail, paying my bills while I recovered. What kind of bills? Detective Walsh asks sharply. Utilities? Credit card payment? She had my checkbook for 2 days. My eyes snap open. Oh my God. She could have written checks, taken pictures of account numbers, gathered financial information? Dr. Chen looks stricken. Sophia, that lunch illness, do you remember what you ate? Seafood salad. Mom said the restaurant must have had bad shrimp. But now I remember how Mom barely touched her own plate, how she'd insisted on choosing my dish, how quickly she had suggested we leave when I started feeling sick. This has been going on for weeks, Jake says, his voice tight with anger. They've been testing methods, gathering information, planning this whole thing. Detective Walsh stands. Miss Patterson, I strongly recommend you agree to press charges. This level of premeditation, the research your brother conducted, the repeated attempts, this isn't going to stop unless there are legal consequences. Through the window, I can see the sun beginning to rise over Portland. Somewhere across town, my family is probably crafting their story, deciding how to spin this when the police arrive. They'll claim it was a harmless prank to went wrong. They'll say I'm overreacting, being dramatic, betraying family loyalty. But I'm not the same person that walked into that birthday dinner 12 hours ago. That woman still believed family love came without conditions. This woman knows that sometimes the people who claim to love you most are the ones planning your destruction. Detective Walsh, I say, my voice steady, despite everything. I want to press charges. All of them.
She nods approvingly. Good, because we're going to need your help building a case that ensures this never happens to you, or anyone else again. The police station's interview room smells like stale coffee and desperation. Through the one-way glass, I can see my family sitting in the waiting area. Mom clutching her purse like a shield, Dad's jaw set in stubborn defiance, and Ethan hunched over his phone as if he could disappear into the screen. Detective Walsh slides a thick manila folder across the metal table between us. Miss Patterson, what we've uncovered goes far deeper than last night's incident. Your family has been planning this for months. I open the folder with trembling hands, still weak from the hospital stay. The first document is a printout of Ethan's browser history, timestamps going back to February, 3 months before my promotion was even announced. How to get power of attorney for adult child, I read aloud, my voice catching. Signs of mental breakdown in high-functioning adults. Legal guardianship when family member becomes incapacitated. Jake leans closer, reading over my shoulder. February 18th. That's 2 weeks before you even interviewed for the senior QA position. Detective Walsh nods grimly. Your brother wasn't just researching random topics. Look at the progression. I flip through the pages, watching Ethan's search history evolve from general queries to specific strategies. Medications that cause confusion and dependence.
How long does food poisoning last? What happens when someone can't work for extended periods? He was building a playbook, I whisper. It gets worse, Detective Walsh says, producing another document. We found a shared Google Drive account between your parents and brother. They've been documenting your financial information, work schedule, and personal relationships for months. The spreadsheet on the next page makes my blood run cold. 3 columns: Sophia's assets, vulnerabilities, and action items. Under assets, they've listed my condo value, estimated savings, my salary, even my 401k balance, information I've never shared with them. Under vulnerabilities, works too much, health concerns, guilt about family obligations, no local friends besides Jake, trusts family completely. The action items read like a military operation. Establish a pattern of health episodes, create financial emergencies requiring immediate assistance, isolate from boyfriend if possible, medical intervention, temporary incapacitation. How did they get my financial information? I asked, though pieces are already falling into place. Detective Walsh pulls out another document. Your mother has been taking photos of your mail during her helpful visits. Bank statements, investment reports, pay stubs. We found over 50 images on her phone dating back to last Christmas. I remember now. Mom's insistence on helping organize my desk during the holidays, her offer to sort through my mail pile while I was cooking dinner. She'd been methodical, photographing documents when I stepped out of the room. There's more, Detective Walsh continues. They've been tracking your work schedule through your company's public LinkedIn posts about projects. Your brother created a fake profile to connect with your colleagues and gather information about your responsibilities and travel schedule. The violation feels complete. They've invaded every aspect of my life, turning my trust against me, weaponizing my own success to justify their actions. Look at this entry from 3 weeks ago. Jake points to a note in their shared document. S is becoming more resistant to financial requests. Need to escalate to a health crisis scenario. E has contact at lab. Proceed with birthday plan. 3 weeks ago. While I was celebrating a successful FDA inspection at work, they were plotting to poison me. Detective Walsh opens a second folder. The lab contact was Dr. Richard Kenton, your colleague. Ethan approached him at a coffee shop near your facility, pretending to be interested in pharmaceutical career opportunities. Dr. Kenton thought he was helping a young man explore career options. Rick? I pictured Dr. Kenton's kind face, his enthusiasm for mentoring young people interested in science. He would never knowingly. Of course not. But your brother was convincing. He told Dr. Kenton he was your brother, asked about entry-level positions, mentioned his interest in compounds that help with digestive issues for his graphic design portfolio. Apparently, some client wanted scientifically accurate pill illustrations. The audacity is breathtaking. Ethan used my professional relationships, my reputation, my colleagues' trust in me, to gather information for his assault. Dr. Kenton provided general information about common laxative compounds, thinking he was helping an aspiring young scientist. He had no idea he was enabling an attack on his own colleague.
I flip to the next document and freeze. It's a handwritten note in Mom's careful script. Sophia's birthday, final implementation. Cake delivery method ensures consumption. E, confident about dosage calculations. Post-incident care plan, move S to guest room, control access to phone, computer, manage all communications until recovery period establishes dependency pattern. They were going to imprison me in their house, I breathe. Under the guise of caring for their sick daughter, Detective Walsh confirms, we found shopping lists for supplies, adult diapers, electrolyte solutions, bed rails, even a baby monitor. They were prepared for extended incapacitation. Jake stands abruptly, pacing to the small window. This isn't love. This isn't even an obsession. This is kidnapping with extra steps. I turn the page and find something even chilling, a timeline titled Recovery and Reintegration. Week 1.
establish medical necessity for extended care. Week 2, begin financial assistance due to lost work. Week 3, discuss permanent living arrangements for health monitoring. Permanent living arrangements? I read aloud. They wanted me to move back home. Look at the financial projections, Detective Walsh points to a spreadsheet. They calculated your potential lost wages, estimated how long they could maintain control before you might seek independent medical care, even researched the legal requirements for declaring someone temporarily incompetent. The numbers swim before my eyes. They'd planned every aspect of dismantling my independent life, packaging it as family care and medical necessity. There's one more thing, Detective Walsh says quietly. We found communications between your parents and a lawyer, James Morrison of Morrison & Associates. They've been consulting about establishing conservatorship over an adult child. Conservatorship? The word feels foreign, terrifying. Legal authority over someone deemed unable to care for themselves. The lawyer's notes indicate they described you as having a dangerous obsession with work that was affecting your judgment and health. They claimed previous interventions had failed. I stare at the legal documents, seeing my life dissected by people I trusted completely. Every kindness I had shown them, every time I had helped with their emergencies, every family dinner I had attended despite my exhaustion, it had all been research for this moment. The lawyer advised them that establishing conservatorship would require medical documentation of incapacity. That's why they needed you sick for an extended period. They were building a case that you couldn't care for yourself. Jake returns to his seat, his face pale. How long would something like that last? Indefinitely, if they could prove ongoing incapacity. With control over your medical care, they could ensure you remained dependent. The room falls silent as the implications sink in. My family hadn't just wanted to hurt me, they'd wanted to erase me, to transform an independent woman into a dependent patient under their permanent control. Miss Patterson, Detective Walsh says gently, I need to prepare you for what's going to happen next. When we arrest them, they're going to claim this was all motivated by love and concern. They'll say you've been self-destructive, that they were trying to save you from yourself. But the evidence is overwhelming. But your family is going to mount a defense by portraying themselves as loving but misguided relatives. They'll say everything they did came from a place of genuine concern. I think about the birthday dinner, how carefully everything had been orchestrated. The comments about my working too much, Dad's observations about my stress levels, Mom's concerns about my isolation. They'd been laying groundwork, creating a public record of my supposed deterioration. They're going to say the lawyer consultation was just research, that they never intended to follow through. They'll claim the laxatives were meant to be a wake-up call about my health, not an assault. Will anyone believe that? Detective Walsh closes the folders. Not with this evidence. But your family is going to mount a defense by portraying themselves as loving but misguided relatives. They'll say everything they did came from a place of genuine concern. I stand slowly, my legs still unsteady from yesterday's ordeal. Through the window, I can see my family in the waiting area. Mom has started crying, theatrical tears that I now recognize as performance. Dad is speaking earnestly to a uniformed officer, no doubt explaining how this is all a misunderstanding. And Ethan sits apart from them, staring at his hands, the weight of his research and planning finally hitting him.
They destroyed themselves, I say quietly. All of this, the planning, the research, the documentation, it's all evidence of premeditation. Exactly. People acting out of love and concern don't spend months researching legal guardianship and pharmaceutical compounds. They don't document their victims' vulnerabilities or consult lawyers about conservatorship. I watch my parents through the glass, seeing them clearly for perhaps the first time. Not loving, but possessive. Not concerned, but controlling. Not family, but strangers wearing familiar faces who'd been planning my destruction while I trusted them completely. Detective Walsh, I say, my voice steady despite everything. When you arrest them, I want to be there. I want them to know that I know exactly what they plan to do to me. She nods approvingly. We'll arrange that.
Because the most important thing they need to understand is that their plan failed. You're still independent, still in control of your own life, and now you have the truth. The truth. It should feel like victory, but instead it feels like the death of every warm memory I'd carried about my childhood, every belief I'd held about family love, every assumption I had made about the people who raised me. But maybe that's what freedom costs sometimes, the willingness to let go of beautiful lies in favor of ugly truths. The interrogation room door opens with a metallic click, and Detective Walsh gestures for me to enter. They've been separated for individual questioning for 3 hours. We're ready for you to make your statement. I step into the sterile space where my family's lies are about to unravel. The recording equipment hums quietly in the corner, documenting what will become legal evidence. In my hands, I carry a leather portfolio, my own documentation that I've spent the past 18 hours compiling. Before we bring them in, Detective Walsh says, settling across from me, let's review your evidence. I open the portfolio, revealing months of my own meticulous record-keeping that I'd never realized would become crucial. I'm a quality assurance manager, I begin, my voice steady. Documentation is my specialty. I just never thought I'd need to document my own family's manipulation. The first section contains every text message requesting money, organized chronologically with amounts highlighted. The pattern is clear, I explained, pointing to the timeline. Each request escalated in urgency and amount, always framed as emergencies. Detective Walsh examines the messages. February 15th, $800 for your father's urgent car repair. March 3rd, $1,200 for your mother's emergency dental work. March 18th, $2,000 for Ethan's immediate rent payment to avoid eviction. I verified none of these, I admit, but I started feeling uncomfortable around the time I got promoted, so I began screenshotting requests before responding. I flipped to the next section, bank records showing the transfers. What I didn't realize until yesterday was the timing. Every request came exactly 3 days after my paycheck deposits. They were monitoring my account activity somehow. Through the mail surveillance, Detective Walsh confirms. They knew your financial rhythm better than you thought. The third section contains what I'm most proud of, call logs from my phone. I noticed they always called during work hours when requesting money. I thought it was a coincidence, but look at the pattern. The logs show calls consistently arriving during my laboratory's busiest periods, during inspections, important meetings, deadline crunches. They called when they knew I'd be stressed and distracted, more likely to say yes quickly without asking questions. Psychological manipulation, Detective Walsh observes. They weaponized my work ethic against me. I turned to a section labeled Medical Incidents and took a deep breath. After yesterday, I started remembering other times I got mysteriously sick after family meals. I called my doctor and requested my medical records. The hospital visit summaries tell a story I'd been too trusting to see. 6 visits in the past year for sudden gastrointestinal issues, all within 24 to 48 hours of family dinners. Dr. Williams noted the pattern in my file, but attributed it to work stress. Your family was testing methods, Detective Walsh says grimly. There's more. I contacted my neighbor, Mrs. Henderson. She's retired and home most days. I asked her about the times my mother came to help when I was sick. I produced a handwritten statement from Mrs. Henderson. She noticed my mother arriving with overnight bags, staying for days, even when I appeared recovered. She also observed my mother removing mail from my mailbox and taking photos of documents on my porch. Detective Walsh reads the neighbor's observations. This establishes a pattern of surveillance and control that supports our case.
The next section represents hours of work that would have impressed my pharmaceutical colleagues. I analyze the timing of their financial requests against my work project deadlines, published company announcements, and social media posts about my success. The correlation chart is damning. Every request for money came within 72 hours of positive professional developments. The announcement of my promotion, completion of major projects, recognition awards, salary increases.
They weren't just monitoring my finances, I explain. They were monitoring my success and weaponizing it. Every achievement became a reason I should feel guilty for having more than them. Detective Walsh studies my documentation with professional admiration. Miss Patterson, this level of evidence compilation would make prosecutors very happy. I flip to the final section, the one that required the most courage to compile. Screenshots of social media posts, family photos, and public statements they made about me over the past year. The posts paint a picture of concerned parents worried about their daughter's unhealthy work obsession. Dad's Facebook posts lamenting how career success can come at the cost of family relationships. Mom's Instagram photos with captions about praying for children who forget their roots. They were building a public narrative, I explain, creating witnesses who'd testified they'd been concerned about my mental state for months. Premeditation doesn't just apply to the poisoning, Detective Walsh realizes. They were laying the groundwork for a conservatorship case. A knock interrupts us. Detective Walsh? Officer Rodriguez appears in the doorway. The family is asking to speak with Sophia. They want to clear up this misunderstanding privately. I look at Detective Walsh, who raises an eyebrow. Your choice, but anything they say will be recorded and can be used as evidence. I want to hear what they have to say, I decide. But I speak first. 5 minutes later, my family is escorted into the larger conference room. They're no longer sitting together, a strategic decision by the police to prevent coordination of their stories. Mom's makeup has smudged from crying, Dad's shirt is wrinkled, and Ethan looks like he hasn't slept. Sophia, sweetheart, Mom begins immediately. Thank God you're okay. We've been so worried. Stop, I interrupt, my voice cutting through her performance. We're past the act now. I open my portfolio on the table between us, the evidence spread like an accusation. I know about Google Drive. I know about financial surveillance. I know about the lawyer consultations and the conservatorship research. Their faces cycle through emotions, surprise, calculation, fear. Dad recovers first, shifting into damage control mode. Sophia, you're obviously still sick. The stress of this situation is making you paranoid. Am I? I pull out my phone, opening the medical app that's been tracking my recovery. My blood work is normal, my hydration levels are stable, my cognitive function tests are perfect. I'm not sick anymore, Dad. I'm clear-headed for the first time in months. Ethan finally speaks, his voice small. It wasn't supposed to hurt you permanently. It was just supposed to... What? I lean forward. Make me dependent? Give you legal control over my life? Turn me into a patient instead of a daughter? We just wanted our family back, Mom pleads. You became so distant, so obsessed with work. We missed you. I slide the timeline of their planning across the table. You missed controlling me. This isn't love, it's possession. Dad's expression hardens as he realizes their emotional manipulation isn't working. You're our daughter. We have a right to be concerned when you're destroying your health with work stress. You have no rights over my adult life, I reply calmly, and you certainly don't have the right to poison me to prove a point. The room falls silent except for the humming of recording equipment capturing every word for legal proceedings. Here's what's going to happen, I continue, drawing on every ounce of professional authority I ever developed. You're going to be charged with aggravated assault, conspiracy, and attempted unlawful imprisonment. Your lawyer consultations are evidence of premeditation. Your documentation of my life is evidence of stalking. Sophia, please, Ethan whispers, don't destroy our family over this. I look at each of them in turn. These people who raised me, who I'd loved unconditionally, who had systematically planned to destroy my independence while calling it care. I'm not destroying our family, I say quietly. You already did that when you decided to treat me like property instead of a person.
Detective Walsh steps forward. Mr. and Mrs. Patterson, Ethan Patterson, you are under arrest for aggravated assault with intent to cause bodily harm, conspiracy to commit unlawful imprisonment,
and stalking. As the handcuffs click into place, Mom makes one final attempt. "Sophia, we love you. Everything we did was because we love you." I close my portfolio, securing months of evidence that will ensure justice. Love doesn't plan someone's destruction and call it care. Walking out of that conference room, leaving my family to face the consequences of their actions, I feel something I haven't experienced in months: complete control over my own life. 6 weeks later, I sit in the Portland Municipal Courthouse wearing my most professional navy blazer, watching my family's defense attorney pace before the jury like a man drowning in evidence. Attorney Dennis Kravli has the impossible task of explaining away months of premeditated planning as misguided family concern. "Ladies and gentlemen," Kravli addresses the 12-person jury, "what you're seeing here is a family intervention gone tragically wrong. Robert and Eleanor Patterson, along with their son Ethan, were desperate to help their daughter, a woman so consumed by work that she'd forgotten the importance of family." I resist the urge to roll my eyes. The prosecution has spent 3 days presenting evidence so overwhelming that even Kravli's opening statement sounds like a confession. Prosecutor Diana Reeves stands to object. "Your Honor, the defense cannot characterize aggravated assault as an intervention. The evidence clearly shows months of planning to incapacitate Miss Patterson and gain legal control over her life." Judge Martinez sustains the objection, but Kravli continues his desperate narrative. "These are loving parents who watched their loving daughter work herself to the point of exhaustion. They tried conventional approaches, family dinners, expressions of concern, requests for her to prioritize her health." On the witness stand, Ethan fidgets with his hands, avoiding eye contact with everyone in the courtroom. His plea deal requires him to testify truthfully about the planning process in exchange for reduced charges. "Mr. Patterson," Prosecutor Reeves begins her cross-examination, "please tell the court about your visit to the pharmaceutical laboratory where your sister works." Ethan's voice barely carries to the back of the courtroom. "I went there to ask about compounds that would make someone sick." "Not just sick," Reeves clarifies, holding up lab records. "According to Dr. Chen's testimony, you specifically asked about dosages that would cause maximum discomfort without permanent damage. Is that correct?" "Yes." "And you told Dr. Chen this was for a harmless prank on your sister?" "Yes." "But your internet search history shows research into legal guardianship and conservatorship. That doesn't sound like a prank, does it?" Ethan's attorney objects, but the damage is visible on the jury's faces. Several jurors shake their heads in disbelief. Reeves approaches the evidence table. "Mr. Patterson, can you explain the shopping list found in your handwriting?" She holds up a piece of paper. "Adult diapers, bed rails, baby monitor, electrolyte solutions. These aren't prank supplies, are they? We thought she might need extended care." "Extended care for a prank?" The contradiction hangs in the air like smoke. Even Kravli looks defeated. When my mother takes the stand, she attempts her practiced performance of maternal concern. Tears flow on cue as she describes her worry about my work habits and social isolation. "Mrs. Patterson," Reeves begins, "you told police that your daughter was obsessed with work and destroying her health. But her medical records show excellent health markers. Her supervisor's testimony described her as balanced and professional. Where exactly was this destruction occurring?" Mom's facade cracks slightly. "A mother knows her child. I could see the signs. The signs of success? Financial independence? Professional achievement?" Objection. Kravli jumps up, but the jury has heard enough. Reeves produces Mom's phone, evidence already admitted. "Mrs. Patterson, this device contains 57 photographs of your daughter's personal mail, including bank statements and investment reports. Can you explain why a concerned mother would need this information?" I was just organizing for her when she was sick." Organizing or gathering intelligence for the conservatorship case you were building? The courtroom falls silent as Mom's story collapses. Her tears stop flowing as she realizes her performance is failing. Dad's testimony is the most revealing. His natural arrogance surfaces quickly under cross-examination. "Mr. Patterson, You consulted attorney James Morrison about establishing conservatorship over your daughter. What specific medical condition prompted this consultation? She was working too much, not taking care of herself. Working too much isn't a medical condition, sir. What diagnosis were you planning to claim? Dad's jaw tightens. Sometimes families have to intervene when someone can't see they need help. Intervene by poisoning them? It wasn't poison. It was a wake-up call. The outburst draws gasps from the gallery. Crawley looks like he wants to crawl under the defense table. A wake-up call that could have caused cardiac complications, that required hospitalization? She needed to understand that family comes first. There it is, the truth finally spoken. Not concern, not love, but entitlement. The belief that my independence was a threat that needed to be eliminated. When I take the stand, the courtroom is completely silent. I speak directly to the jury, my voice steady despite months of trauma. My family didn't poison me because they loved me. They poisoned me because they couldn't control me. Every achievement I earned was reframed as a betrayal. Every boundary I set was treated as a character flaw. I hold up the portfolio that's become crucial evidence. This documentation shows months of surveillance, financial manipulation, and psychological manipulation. They didn't want to help me. They wanted to own me. Reeves asks me to explain the impact. I lost more than my health that night. I lost my ability to trust unconditionally. I lost the family I thought I had. But I gained something more valuable. The knowledge that I'm strong enough to survive betrayal from the people closest to me. During closing arguments, Crawley makes one final attempt to frame this as a family tragedy rather than criminal assault. These defendants made mistakes, yes, but they acted from love, not malice. Prosecutor Reeves destroys this narrative with surgical precision. Love doesn't research pharmaceutical compounds. Love doesn't plan conservatorship cases. Love doesn't shop for adult diapers to control another adult. Love doesn't poison birthday cake. She pauses, letting her words sink in. The defendants didn't act from love. They acted from possessiveness, entitlement, and a desire to control another human being's life. That's not family concern. That's abuse. The jury deliberates for less than 2 hours. We, the jury, find Robert Patterson guilty on all charges. We, the jury, find Eleanor Patterson guilty on all charges. We, the jury, find Ethan Patterson guilty on all charges. As the bailiff needs my family away in handcuffs, Mom tries one final manipulation. "Sophia, please don't let them destroy our family!" I stand in the gallery, surrounded by Jake, Dr. Chen, and colleagues who've supported me through this nightmare. For the first time in months, I feel completely free. They didn't destroy our family, I call back as she is escorted out. You did that yourself when you put laxatives in my birthday cake. The courtroom doors close, and with them, a chapter of my life that I'll never have to revisit. Justice isn't just about punishment. It's about validation, closure, and the freedom to build a life without fear of those who claim to love you while planning your destruction. The conference room at Pacific Northwest Community College buzzes with nervous energy as 15 adults settle into their chairs, coffee cups and notebooks scattered across the polished table. Outside the windows, Portland's autumn rain creates rivulets down the glass, but inside, warmth radiates from faces eager to learn. Welcome to Recognizing Financial and Emotional Abuse in Family Relationships, I begin, standing at the front of the room with a confidence I've built over the past 18 months. A woman in her 40s raises her hand tentatively. How do you know what we're experiencing?
I smile, remembering when I would have asked the same question. Because 18 months ago, I was sitting in a hospital bed, poisoned by my own family,
wondering how people who claim to love me could hurt me so systematically. And like many of you, I thought it was my fault. The workshop has become my passion project, a monthly gathering I started after 6 months of my own therapy. What began as a support group in my living room has evolved into a structured program that the college now sponsors. Today, we're going to talk about documentation, I continue, pulling up a presentation on the smartboard. Not because we want to prosecute our families, but because documentation gives us clarity. It helps us see patterns we might otherwise dismiss. Marcus, a soft-spoken accountant whose elderly mother has been draining his savings through manufactured emergencies, takes careful notes. Sophia, how do you document manipulation? It's not like they send threatening texts. Actually, Marcus, they often do. I click to the next slide showing anonymized examples. Manipulation leaves digital footprints. Guilt-inducing messages, financial pressure tactics, emotional blackmail. They all create evidence trails. I walk them through my own discovery process. How I'd tracked financial requests against my paycheck dates, how I'd noticed the timing of their emotional crises, how I'd documented the escalation of control tactics. The birthday cake incident wasn't the beginning. It was the culmination of months of testing boundaries, gathering information, and building a case for controlling my life. If I hadn't started documenting earlier patterns, I might have missed the bigger picture. Jennifer, a nurse whose brother has been exploiting her guilt about their father's care, raises her hand. But what if documentation feels like I'm betraying my family? The question hits close to home. Jennifer, documentation isn't betrayal. It's self-preservation. And sometimes it becomes the evidence that saves not just you, but others. I click to a new slide showing newspaper headlines. Local woman prevents elder abuse ring after exposing family manipulation tactics. Pharmaceutical workers case leads to enhanced lab security protocols. Family abuse survivor helps establish new legal protections. My case became a catalyst for change. The conservatorship laws my family tried to exploit have been strengthened. The pharmaceutical lab where I work has implemented new security protocols. 3 other families have been investigated based on similar patterns. The room falls silent as participants absorb the broader implications. But the most important change, I continue, was internal. I learned that healing doesn't require maintaining relationships with people who harm you, even if they're family. After the workshop, I drive to my new apartment across town. A bright, spacious place with large windows and a security system I installed myself. Jake and I moved in together 6 months ago, after he'd proven through the chaos of trials and recovery that his love came without conditions or hidden agendas. He's cooking dinner when I arrive, the smell of garlic and herbs filling the kitchen. "How was the workshop?" he asks, wrapping me in a hug that still feels like coming home. "Productive. We had a new participant today, a teacher whose sister has been exploiting her professional reputation to scam parents. Sound familiar?" Jake shakes his head. The creativity of abusers never ceases to amaze me. But the fact that people are finding your workshops, getting help, that's incredible. Over dinner, I review emails from past workshop participants. Sarah, whose father had been monitoring her bank accounts, successfully established financial independence and moved to a new state. David, whose siblings had been gaslighting him about his mother's care needs, arranged for professional elder care and set firm boundaries. "Look at this one," I showed Jake. A message from Maria, who attended workshops 6 months ago. She's starting her own support group for healthcare workers dealing with family financial abuse. She wants to use our curriculum. "You're building a movement," Jake observes. The thought is both thrilling and sobering. My family's attempt to destroy my independence has inadvertently created something larger, a network of people learning to recognize and resist manipulation disguised as love. My phone buzzes with a call from Dr. Chen. "Sophia,
I wanted to update you on the Mitchells case. The Mitchells, a family I'd identified through workshop connections, had been using similar tactics on their adult daughter, a successful software engineer. What did the investigation find? Identical patterns to your case: financial surveillance, manufactured health crises, legal consultations about conservatorship. They've been arrested, and their daughter is safe. How is she handling it? Surprisingly well. She said your workshop gave her the framework to recognize what was happening before it escalated to physical harm.
After ending the call, I sit in my home office, surrounded by certificates from victim advocacy organizations, thank you letters from workshop participants, and photos from the life I've built. The contrast with 18 months ago is staggering. On my desk sits a framed photo from my 29th birthday last month, a small celebration with Jake, Dr. Chen, and friends I've made through advocacy work. The cake in the photo is store-bought chocolate, chosen specifically because it represents freedom from family traditions that masked control. I open my laptop to review next month's workshop agenda when an email notification appears. The sender's name makes my chest tighten. Eleanor Patterson, Mom. The message is brief. Sophia, I'm getting out on parole next month. I've been attending counseling programs, and I understand now how wrong we were. I know I don't deserve forgiveness, but I hope someday we can talk. I miss my daughter. Love, Mom. I stare at the screen, emotions cycling through anger, sadness, and something that might be pity. The woman who spent months planning my destruction now wants reconciliation. The family member who documented my vulnerabilities now claims understanding. I forwarded the email to my therapist, Dr. Amanda Rivers, and type a response. Eleanor, I received your message. I'm glad you're getting help, and I hope counseling brings you genuine insight into the harm you caused. However, I will not be resuming contact. I've built a life free from manipulation and control, and I intend to protect that. I wish you well in your recovery, but my healing requires your absence. Please do not contact me again. Sophia. I hit send without hesitation, feeling the strength that comes from clear boundaries maintained without guilt. Later that evening, Jake finds me on our balcony, watching the city lights twinkle below. Thinking about your mom's email? Thinking about how different I am now. 18 months ago, that email would have sent me into crisis. I would have spent weeks agonizing over whether I owed her a chance, whether forgiveness was my responsibility. And now? Now I know that forgiveness doesn't require a relationship. Healing doesn't require reconciliation. And love, real love, doesn't come with conditions, manipulation, or the threat of punishment. I lean against him, solid and warm in the cool evening air. My family taught me what love isn't. You and the people I've chosen as family have taught me what it is. As we head inside, I glance once more at my home office, walls lined with evidence of the life I've rebuilt from the ashes of family betrayal. Tomorrow, I'll help more people recognize manipulation disguised as care. Next week, I'll train healthcare workers to spot signs of family financial abuse. Next month, I'll speak at a conference about the intersection of professional success and family manipulation. My family tried to poison my independence and nearly succeeded. Instead, they created someone who helps others recognize the taste of toxic love before it's too late. Sometimes the greatest gift your enemies give you is the motivation to become someone they could never destroy. And sometimes surviving betrayal by those closest to you teaches you to build something beautiful with those who choose to love you without condition. The birthday cake that was meant to steal my freedom ultimately became the catalyst for a life more authentic and purposeful than I'd ever imagined possible. That's not just survival, that's transformation. And every time I help someone else recognize the bitter aftertaste of manipulation disguised as love, I know that my family's greatest attempt to control me became my greatest source of power to help others break free. 3 years have passed since that poisoned birthday cake changed everything. Today, I stand before a packed auditorium at the International Conference on Family Violence Prevention, delivering the keynote address to over 800 professionals from around the world. When we think of family abuse, we often picture obvious violence, bruises, screaming matches, clear physical threats. But sophisticated abusers don't leave bruises. They leave confusion, self-doubt, and carefully crafted narratives that make victims question their own perceptions. The presentation screen behind me displays a new diagram I've developed called the sophistication spectrum of family abuse. It maps how educated, middle-class families often employ more subtle but equally devastating tactics than their less sophisticated counterparts. My parents had graduate degrees. They understood psychology, legal systems, and pharmaceutical compounds. They weaponized their intelligence to create what appeared to be love, but was actually a masterclass in coercive control. Dr. Harrison Mitchell, director of the National Family Safety Institute, approaches the podium during the Q&A session. Ms. Patterson, your research has identified a concerning trend: adult children of successful families being systematically exploited by relatives who feel entitled to their achievements. Can you elaborate on this emerging pattern?
I nod, pulling up statistics I've been tracking. We've documented over 400 cases in the past 2 years alone. The profile is consistent: high-achieving adult children whose success triggers family resentment, leading to escalating manipulation tactics designed to bring them back down to earth. The data is sobering. Financial exploitation, identity theft, credit destruction, professional sabotage, and in extreme cases like mine, direct physical harm, all perpetrated by family members who genuinely believe they're correcting an imbalance rather than committing crimes. The most insidious aspect, I continue, is how society enables this abuse through cultural narratives about family loyalty. When victims seek help, they're often told to work things out, to remember that family is forever, or to consider their parents' feelings. These responses inadvertently protect abusers while silencing victims. After my presentation, I'm approached by Detective Walsh, now retired and working as a consultant for law enforcement training programs. Sophia, I wanted you to know the Patterson case has become required study material for police academies across 3 states. Officers are learning to recognize sophisticated family abuse patterns they might have previously dismissed. That's incredible, I respond, genuinely moved. How many cases have been solved using the protocols we developed? 47 successful prosecutions so far, and we're tracking dozens more investigations. Your documentation methods have become the gold standard for building evidence in family exploitation cases. That evening, Jake and I attend the conference dinner where I'm receiving the Survivor Advocacy Excellence Award. As I accept the crystal trophy, I think about the irony. My family's attempt to reduce me to a dependent patient has instead elevated me to international recognition as an expert in family abuse prevention. This award belongs to everyone who chose to believe survivors rather than dismissing our experiences, to professionals who took the time to look deeper when patterns seemed unusual, to law enforcement officers who understood that family crimes can be just as calculated as stranger crimes, and to other survivors who found the courage to document their experiences even when no one initially believed them. Later, in our hotel room, I video called Maria in Phoenix, who's now running support groups in 3 southwestern states. Sophia, you won't believe this. We just got funding for a mobile crisis response unit specifically for family financial abuse. The pilot program is based entirely on your workshop curriculum. The ripple effects continue to expand. My case study is taught in social work programs, criminal justice courses, and medical schools. The Patterson protocols for documenting family abuse are used by victim advocates nationwide. The pharmaceutical security measures implemented after my case have prevented several similar attempts at workplace-assisted poisoning. But perhaps the most meaningful development is personal. Last month, Jake proposed during a quiet dinner at home. No family drama, no hidden agendas, just 2 people who've chosen each other freely and completely. I want to spend my life with someone who taught me what authentic love looks like, he said, presenting a ring we'd selected together.
Someone who showed me that healthy relationships don't require sacrifice of identity or independence. As I write these final words, our wedding is 3 weeks away. The guest list includes chosen family: Dr. Chen, Detective Walsh, workshop participants who've become close friends, colleagues who supported me through the legal battles, and Jake's family, who've welcomed me without condition or expectation. There will be cake at our wedding. Store-bought, professionally catered, prepared by people with no hidden motives. When I blow out the candles, my wish will be simple: that my story continues inspiring others to recognize that survival isn't the end goal, transformation is. My family taught me an invaluable lesson, though not the one they intended. They taught me that some people will try to destroy what they cannot control, that love and possession are often confused, and that the strongest relationships are chosen rather than inherited. They also taught me that documentation saves lives, that patterns reveal truth more clearly than individual incidents, and that sometimes the people who hurt you most become the catalyst for your greatest purpose. 3 years ago, I was a successful but isolated quality assurance manager who trusted blindly and loved unconditionally. Today, I'm a survivor advocate, researcher, and soon-to-be wife who trusts wisely and loves with boundaries intact. The bitter taste of betrayal has been replaced by the sweet knowledge that I'm stronger than those who tried to break me, and that their failure to control me has become thousands of other people's pathway to freedom. That's not just a happy ending, it's a powerful beginning to a life they never could have imagined, built on a foundation they inadvertently made unshakable through their attempts to destroy it. Sometimes the greatest gift your enemies give you is showing you exactly how strong you really are. Looking for more? We've got 2 amazing stories ready for you right on screen. If this one touched you, these are absolutely worth your time. Click to watch them now, and hey, subscribe and hit that bell to never miss our latest uploads.